My name is Mike Sacco, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of First Year Experience in the Center for Student Formation here at Boston College. I just want to let you know what a privilege it is to be with you tonight as we celebrate your first year academic convocation. To kick off this evening, we are going to invite our Liturgy Arts group to bless us with a hymn.
We invite you all to please stand and join in singing Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam as found in your program.
To the class of 2022, this is probably the first time that you've all formally been together, perhaps outside that picture you took during Welcome Week. So I just want to say, welcome to Academic Convocation. You have made it through 2 weeks and 1 day of Boston College. I think you need to give yourself a class of 2022 round of applause. You all clean up real nice. In addition to the class of 2022, to the Golden Eagles, the class of 1969, and our Silver Eagles, the class of 1994, it is a privilege to welcome you back to the Heights so you can join us as we celebrate your 50th and 25th anniversary years. Give them a round of applause too, folks. I can't tell you how disappointed we were because of the weather that we could not have our first flight ceremony. We were all prepared. We had the torches for you. We had ribbons. It was going to be great. But alas, I think we made the right call with the weather that's out there tonight. Should you have lined up tonight on Linden Lane and processed down from to the Connie Forum by Residence Hall, each of you would have received an individual charge from an academic, faculty member, one of our administrators, and a member of our Jesuit community. This charge is to remind you of the hopes that we have for you as the class of 2022. We hope that you will grow into women and men who understand and live out the values of your Jesuit education. That charge, and indeed this entire event tonight, is to A, open the academic year for you, but also to remind you that you are part of an academic community and a Boston College community that will exist well beyond your graduation. That indeed is why we've invited our alumni classes back to celebrate this evening with us. To address them, I would first like to invite Leah DaCosta, our Associate Vice President of Alumni Relations, and Father Casey Beaumier, Vice President and University Secretary, up to welcome the classes and issue them a charge. Thank you.
Men and women of the class of 1994 and 1969, welcome back to Boston College. In your years as students here, you grew in the spirit of Jesuit education. You learned to be attentive, to be reflective, and to be loving.
This evening, as you participate in Convocation at the beginning of your reunion year, BC is happy to salute you as men and women who are wise and great-hearted, who have made a difference in the world, apt models for the newest BC students who are following in your footsteps. In the years that lie ahead, may you continue to answer the call of your alma mater.
Go set the world aflame.
Circumstances tonight have made this, in a way, sort of special, that instead of each of you receiving your own individual charge, you get to receive a charge as an entire class. And to do that, I would now like to invite up Dr. David Quigley, our Provost and Dean of Faculties, as well as Father Greg Kauscher, the Dean of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences.
Men and women of the class of 2022 and entering transfer students, welcome to the next stage of your journey. In your years at Boston College, we urge you to grow in the spirit of Jesuit education.
Learn to be attentive, to be reflective, and to be loving, so that when you proceed down from Linden Lane to Alumni Stadium 4 years from now, you will be men and women who are wise and great-hearted, ready to make a difference in the world. Go set the world aflame.
Now, if you're sitting there wondering, where have I seen that guy in the blue sports coat before? I am the gentleman who has the pleasure and the luck to welcome you at orientation. So I was there for each of your orientations. For some of you, I saw you last about almost 3 weeks ago. And for others of you, I saw you about 3 months ago. It's really nice to all be back here once and all together. You might recall that when we were together for orientation, I gave you some parting words of advice. And if you remember, I talked a lot about this concept of conversation partner. And the importance it was to make BC a small place. Take this big place, look how many of you are here. Make this big class small. Make a big university feel small, especially by making connections to your faculty and to staff members. And indeed tonight, Conversations in the First Year is what this event is all about. You've all received and read, I'm sure, your freshman convocation book, Designing Your Life by Dave Evans and Bill Brunette. And we're very lucky to have Dave join us tonight. To give you a welcome and to introduce Dave, I would like to invite up, it's my pleasure to invite up, our president, Father William P. Leahy of the Society of Jesus.
Good evening to all of you, and I join my confreres in welcoming you to not only Convocation tonight, but also Boston College. And what we're here doing tonight is celebrate the beginning of another academic year, having you in our midst, the class of 2022 and transfer students, and to recognize that we all come to Boston College from different places, different experiences, different aspirations, different dreams. We each have aspirations and talents, and this word conversation, I think, is very important, and so is the word reflection. My hope for you as you enter into your lives at Boston College is that you will take the time to consider such questions as, what excites me? What are my deepest desires? What do I enjoy doing? And what are my gifts and struggles? Those questions, I think, are important and can help point the way for you to know more about your life, have a sense of what you might do eventually in life, your calling, your vocation. Each of you brings to Boston College a set of talents and expectations. And so I hope that as you're here, you will periodically take time to engage in conversation, in reflection, and then that you will move toward action that reflects who you want to be and how you want to live. Our goal at Boston College in having you on our campus, joining our community, is that we can help you live lives of meaning, purpose, and coherence, that things make sense, that things are together. And I think in an academic setting, a place that stresses formative education, it's so important that you be people who take the time to wonder. Knowledge begins in wonder, and we want you to consider what your calling is, how you can unite with others at Boston College after conversation, after reflection, and do some things that have impact. That, after all, is why the Jesuit order, the religious community that started Boston College in 1863, and before that opened up its first school in Sicily in 1548, began this whole educational process. We wanted to take the best of the humanities and link that up with character formation, so that people who went through a Jesuit school not only would be trained, developed in their talents, but also have this resolve to do good. We sang at the beginning a song that had the words Ad Maiorem Dei Gloria, which is the motto of the Jesuit order, to the greater glory of God. That's what we're about. And tonight, we're fortunate that we have someone coming to speak about his experiences in Silicon Valley, his moments as a teacher at Stanford and Berkeley, and also someone who has reflected about spirituality and the creative process. Dave Evans, whom you're going to meet formally in just a little bit, is the individual who co-authored the book that we asked you to read this summer, Designing Your Life. He did that with Bill Burnett. And what we want him to talk about is, how do you use the experiences of your life and make conscious choices, be intentional, and then link that up to your hopes and your dreams. Dave Evans is someone who draws from a background in mechanical engineering, life on the West Coast, and someone who has traveled extensively, talking to various groups of individuals like us. So, may I ask you to join me in welcoming Dave Evans here tonight, author, speaker, and someone who has, I think, words of wisdom and goals about life to share with us. So, may I invite you to join me in welcoming Dave Evans. It's all yours.
Okay.
All yours.
So, you pulled it off. You got in. Yeah. You don't have to think about the SATs ever again. You may have to worry about the GREs, but you got 4 years before that. So, now, do you remember? I remember getting in is really cool. Who remembers the day you got your admission? Oh, yeah. And that starts this really very special period of time between when you found out you're going to go to college and actually going, right? And you tell everybody, you say, oh, hey, I'm going to college, you know. And then all the grown-ups say stuff. They say stuff to you. Remember what the grown-ups said? Oh, I'm going to college. Oh, where are you going? I'm going to BC. Oh, that's fabulous. That's great. I'm so glad you picked a Jesuitly-based formative tradition. That's really what you want to do. And you hear all that stuff. And they say all kinds of stuff, right? They ask you questions like, oh, what are you going to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to major in? You hear lots of stuff. And I've talked about this with thousands and thousands of students now, over 20 years of being in education. And one thing we hear that students hear during that very special time, all over the world, all over all cultures is, you know, college is this, college is that, and it's going to be like a very special time. In fact, it's going to be the best 4 years of your life. Who heard that? Who heard something like, these will be the best years of your life? Isn't that amazing? You hear that, and you have to go, oh, that's so exciting, that's so great. And then you go, oh my God, that's horrible. Because think about it. If these are the best 4 years of your life, you know, I'm a kid, and then it gets better and better and better, and then I peak in college, I'm 22, the best years are over, and for the next 70 years, it's straight downhill. And it must be true, because how old are the people saying this to you? I mean, they're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, they must know. You know, when Grandma, 87 years old, said, these are the best 4 years of your life, she's been on the downward slide for 65 years. So how many of you had that experience? You heard best years of your life, and then 3, 2, 1, oh no, it's almost over. So let me clue you in on something. Totally untrue. These are not the best 4 years of your life. Not even close. I mean, it's great to be you. It's lovely to be young. Don't get me wrong. I had a great time in college. I really enjoyed college, but you could not get me to go back and be 18 for all the money in the world. How many of you heard something from an older adult that said, oh, are you getting into college now? That's wonderful. It's such a lovely time. I hope you really enjoy it. But I'll be honest with you, I got to tell you, I'm 65. 65 totally rocks. What you really want to be is 65, because that's when it really kicks in. But 18's not bad. Enjoy yourself. How many of you heard something like that? How many of you wish you did? Yeah. Well, we're here to be those people, because let me tell you, if you play your cards right, it just gets better and better and better. Isn't that what you want? But it is, in fact, true that these 4 years you're about to be living into are a very special time, a very unique time, which are kind of incomparable in life, but they're not the best years, but they are unique. And so what you want is you want to get the most out of it. You really want to make the most of it. So my job tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 ideas based on my own personal experience and having taught for years now, 5 ideas that might help you to make the most of it. Idea number 1, seek to get more out of college, not cram more into. Get more out of it, don't cram more into it. Now, if you're like my students at Stanford, you know, there's a whole lot to do. How many of you went to the involvement fair the other day? How many of you are pretty sure you saw more stuff than you could possibly do? Yeah, and guess what? That's just the beginning. That's just the stuff that came to the fair. BC is about 4 times bigger than yesterday. Let me be really clear. You can't possibly do everything. If you're worried about FOMO, fear of missing out, don't worry about it. You're going to have it. If you don't have FOMO, you're just not paying attention. There is so much cool stuff going on in the world. Here's the thing. You want to move from FOMO to JOMO. See, fear of missing out. Oh, what if that was the cool thing. I should have joined the band. Oh, no, it's too late. My life is over. The whole FOMO mindset is coming from scarcity. The belief that there's just barely enough cool things going on to make your life even work. That's completely untrue. You are incredibly capacious beings living in a target-rich environment. How many have a cell phone? How many of you can spell Google? Okay, you already know there's something cooler going on now. You just haven't had time to search it. There's a million things going on all the time. Of course you're missing out. So when you want to move from FOMO to JOMO, from the fear of missing out to the joy of missing out, it's because you've reframed the awareness that you are incredibly capacious beings in an amazingly target-rich environment. You could not possibly do all the things you want to do. Isn't that great? How cool is it that you're missing out? That just means the world is a more fun, more interesting place than you could shake a stick at, and it's going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. You don't come from scarcity, you come from plenty, because the world is a very interesting place. And it's really a joy to note that I'm going to miss so many things. It just means the world is bigger than I am, and that's really actually a good thing. Idea number 2. Curate your curiosity, don't just collect credentials. It's very easy to get into credentialing and getting badges and degrees and stickers and coupons while you're here in college, but don't do that. Don't just collect credentials, curate your curiosity. Father Lay just talked about wondering while you're here, because you don't want to be Joanne. Joanne is one of my former students. Some years ago, at the end of graduation, there were a group of students, about 40 students, who got together and wanted to do an intensive week-long seminar the week after they graduated from college. So we all went up into the mountains together, and literally we jumped into the car and drove off literally right after graduation. Some of them were taking off their caps and gowns as we ran. And we got up there and we had this week-long intensive conversation. And it starts with, well, how is the experience for you and how is it for your family? And Joanne starts telling her story about her graduation experience, which was a really big deal. She was not the first, but the second generation in her family to go to college. She's from Korea, and everybody came over from Korea, the Korean relatives as well as the American relatives. And Joanne had done everything right. She was a model student. She got the great degree. She got the great award. She was in all the right clubs. She did everything right. And then when asked the question, and how was it, Joanne? Did you enjoy it? Her answer was, I have no idea. I have no idea. I was so busy doing everything, I never actually noticed if I was having a good time. And she burst into tears and said, I don't even know if I got the right education. I don't know if I got the right degree. How did those 4 years go by? What have I done? And she kind of freaked out. Now, we were able, before the week was out, we spent this week together to identify what, in fact, in retrospect, she could find that she really valued in her education. But she had been so driven by getting everything done that she never tasted a morsel. Trust me, fulfilling requirements in and of itself is not fulfilling. Don't just fulfill requirements, but learn how to really get the most out of your education. What you want to do is you want to live in such a way, by curating your curiosity, that you're going to bump into stuff while you're here that you're not even thinking about right now. Imagine there's a time machine. You want your 22-year-old self 4 years from now to be able to get into that machine, fly back, visit you now, and surprise you. You want your 22-year-old self to be able to surprise your 18-year-old self with ideas or points of view or concerns or interests or passions that you can't even imagine yourself thinking of right now. You want to be surprised. Speaking of surprise, that's point number 3. And point number 3 is be surprised by joy, not merely satisfied with success. Be surprised by joy, not merely satisfied with success. So, what is it you really want from college? Well, you want to learn a bunch of stuff, you want to get a degree, you probably want some career readiness, you want to have a great experience, you want to make a lot of friends, but there's probably something more that you want. At least I hope there might be. How many of you would say one thing you're really hoping for is that while you're here, you find that thing you didn't even know you were looking for? Who would like to find that? Who wants to find that thing you didn't even know you're looking for? Yeah. How are you going to plan that? What's your strategy for finding the thing you don't know you're looking for? Well, let me give you one. You want to give yourself the chance to be surprised. Now, if you want to do that, you need to set an extra place at the table. There's a tradition, particularly in Latin America, of trying to be open to the stranger. It's the kind of thing Ignatius would think was a pretty good idea. The whole point being that we live in community. It's not just us alone. But if you're sitting down to table, have you left room? And if you want to remind yourself to leave room, what you literally do is you set an extra place, a plate, set of silverware, and a chair for that person, that stranger we have not met, because he or she may come during dinner and we want to be ready. We've made space. So if you want to be surprised by joy, you want to find that thing you didn't know you're looking for, you have to make extra place at your table, the table you're setting of your education. You have to leave room for wandering around sort of aimlessly. You have to have enough time to bump into something. You have to go to something you're not sure if you will like or not. You have to talk to people you wouldn't naturally necessarily find. You have to give yourself a shot at bumping into something that could be more cool than you had in mind. You want to leave yourself room to wander and leave yourself room to discover. Don't just settle for success. By the way, speaking of success, you want to be successful? Let me tell you how that works. This is a little sidebar. It's for free. The studies make it really clear when you interview college students after they've left, particularly a year or two beyond graduation, and they look back, the ones who say college was really successful for me, that was really a successful experience, there are very clear indicators what contributes to that. And the top 3 are, number 1, make a connection to a faculty member or staff member personally. I had a college student in my class at Berkeley, and in my class, one of the requirements is you had to come and talk to me personally in office hours. You had to come to office hours at least once and talk to me face to face. And one of the students walked up to me and kind of goes, "You've ruined my record." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I'm a senior. I got all the way through Berkeley, and I never had to talk to a prof. Do I have to talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, you do. I'm sorry." I go, "Why is that a record?" Because look, I was going to do it on my own. I wanted to prove I didn't need any help. Well, good for you. Don't be that dumb. Okay? Don't be that dumb. It's incredibly dumb. You know, he worked really, really, really hard to get into a college and make sure that he never talked to anybody once he got there. You know, I mean, give yourself a chance. You know, go get to know some of these people and preferably make a real connection. Thing number 1. Thing number 2, form a community of real closeness, close, deep friendships. You'll make a lot of friends, but make at least a couple of deep friendships. I had a small group of guys I formed in 1972. We still get together every year. Many, many, many years later. They're my best friends in the world. We show up for each other no matter what. Make deep friendships. And third, find a way to connect what you're learning to real life. Get off the campus. Go find, whether it's a program that does that for you here or one you invent. Don't just learn the stuff in the classroom. Find out what it means to you. Find out how it works in the world. Find out what people think about this who are actually living into these kinds of things in the real world. So number 1, connect to a staff member or a faculty member. Number 2, make deep friendships. Number 3, connect your learning to real life. That's the formula for success. And by the way, don't settle for that. You want to be surprised too. Number 4, don't just find your way, learn how to be a way finder. Don't just find your way, learn how to be a way finder. For instance, what you don't want to do is anything even closely related to the way I spent the first 2.5 years at college. when I didn't wayfind at all. I arrived at college thinking I wanted to be a marine biologist. So some of you, how many actually did read the book? Okay, you're not going to get, okay, all 10 of you, great. That's fine. You still don't have to pay for it. So there's a story in the book that most of you don't know, which is I came to college and I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a marine biologist for a very simple reason. I really love the Jacques Cousteau TV show, and I thought it'd be cool to get paid to swim with seals. Like, can you get a job swimming with seals? That would be like really cool. That was the entire strategic planning program of wanting to be a marine biologist. And so I went to Stanford, and they didn't have marine biology as an undergraduate program. In fact, there was nothing to do with marine anything as far as I could tell. So I just majored in the closest thing I could find, which is biology, mostly cellular biology. It has nothing to do with the ocean. And I suffered along for 2.5 years. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the Hopkins Marine Station, which is now the Monterey Bay Aquarium and Research Institute, was 35 miles away. Less than an hour's drive from the campus, Stanford owned one of the most prestigious marine biological research stations on the West Coast. It never even crossed my mind to, well, maybe go talk to a marine biologist and see what they think. So I just kept going to the regular bio, and my bio career at Stanford ended this way. My lab TA came to me and he said, Dave, we've been talking about you, and we'd like to chat with you. We notice you're really bad at this. You don't like it. You're upsetting everyone. Please leave. Drop the major. Go do something else. Maybe you should be a lawyer. Arguing seems to be the only thing you enjoy. And I said, you can't talk to me like that. And they go, yeah, actually, it's our job to talk to you like this. So you can't talk to me like that. So I stuck with it. Next quarter, took bio again. At the end of that lab quarter, Dave, we'd like to have a meeting with you. Second TA, second meeting, second quarter, same result. Please drop the major. You're bad at this, and no one enjoys being around you. So I'm slowly but surely getting some input, some feedback. Maybe this isn't working. When TAs are trying to kick you out of the class. So that's not wayfinding at all. That's just getting completely stuck on a bad idea in your head that you have no idea what it's about. Then the rest of my college, I ended up in mechanical engineering. It's a long story how that happened. I won't bore you with it. But once I got to mechanical engineering, pretty late in the day, I said, okay, I'm not doing that stupid bio thing anymore. I'm going to wander around. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to go actually meet with profs and find out why they do what they do. I'm going to wander around and see what happens. I did not even know when I declared the major that there were 2 divisions in the ME department. There was the mechanical engineering design division where they make stuff, they make machines, and then there was the thermosciences division, the thermodynamics guys who have to do with engines and power and stuff like that. I didn't even know mechanical engineers did that stuff. And I'm wandering through a lab one time, and they've got an engine on a test rack, and I kind of go, what are you guys working on? Well, we're working on the future of engines. And then I suddenly realized, oh, so you guys do that. And boom, I suddenly found myself a passion. I'm going to solve the energy crisis, 1976. I came out of college with a master's in thermosciences as a designated Stanford Energy Research Fellow, paid for by Chevron Research. I was ready to go to be one of the world's earliest advanced energy technologists. So by wandering around, I actually found something I really wanted to do. By talking to people and wayfinding, I actually was able to develop a path that made sense to me. Now, small issue, there was no advanced energy technology industry at the time. That was not in the brochure. After 4 years of failing miserably at trying to do something the world wasn't ready to do, I had to go do it again. And thank goodness I'd learned how to wayfind, not just find one way, because then I refound my way into biomedical engineering in the medical field, and then I refound my way into high technology, and then I refound my way into education, and I'm currently on my 6th career. The one thing you have to find is the next thing, because you're never done. Don't just find your way, learn how to be a wayfinder. And lastly, of course, design your lives for heaven's sakes. Don't just fall into them. Now, it's 260 odd pages. Is there the keep it simple version of design your life? As a matter of fact, there is. One time we were about to go on television to do an interview in the morning news show in Toronto, Canada, on live TV. And the producer comes to me and he says, oh, by the way, your spot just got knocked from 7 minutes down to 3. We need you to give us the book in 1 sentence. And I said, you don't understand. We're Stanford instructors. We don't do 1 sentence answers. And he said, well, then you're off the air. And I said, give me a minute. We're not doing off the air. So I came up with the following 1 sentence, which has turned out to be rather handy. It's really 4 short sentences. You want the short version of Design Your Life? You want to skip the book, those of you who have not read it? Bad idea, but nonetheless, it's Here's the short version. Get curious, talk to people, try stuff, then tell your story. Get curious, talk to people, try stuff, tell your story. That's what we call the virtuous cycle. Get curious, it all starts with the human energy. You have to begin with who you are. If you don't care, it doesn't matter. That's why we want to teach you to curate your curiosity. And then what do you do with that? It's always about the people. Go talk to the people, not to get the job, not to get the admission to the program, but to get the story. Get people's stories. That's what's going to animate you. And from that story, then go try it. Don't go all the way through finishing your PhD and kind of go, ooh, maybe that wasn't what I had in mind. Like Joanne, 4 years later. No, try stuff. Try it in small, bite-sized prototypes so you can figure out what it is you want from an empirical point of view, from a lived point of view, not just an imagined point of view. And then finally, tell your story as you're learning, as you're reflecting and paying attention. Have something to say. When you're standing in line, waiting for your sandwich to get made, at the student union, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the fact that you stayed up last night and binge-watched the second season of Homeland all over again? How cool was that? Which is, interesting enough. Or, gosh, I just had this amazingly interesting coffee with a researcher doing stuff on what's happening in repatriating sex slaves back into the workforce in the Philippines. It was so interesting. Oh, really? Tell me more about that. See, if you're an interested person who is actually trying stuff and reflecting on it, you actually have something to say. And it turns out that being interesting is interesting. So give yourself a shot. Okay, so I'll show you, go for all 5 things at once. That's probably too many things. Any teacher will tell you. You can maybe remember 1 or 2. So I'm going to give you the list again real quickly. My recommendation is this. Pick 1, maybe 2 of these that resonate to you and go, I'm actually going to try that. Because what you do is what matters. Thinking about stuff's interesting, but what you do is what really matters. So your tips are, number 1, seek to get more out of, not cram more into college. You can't possibly do it all. Don't be beset by FOMO. Number 2, curate curiosity. Don't just collect credentials. Don't just get stuff done. Get more interested. Number 3, be surprised by joy. Give yourself room to wander around and bump into the thing you didn't know you were interested in because it hasn't happened yet. Number 4, don't just find one way. Learn how to way-find because you're going to have to do that over and over again. And hey, it's your life, you might as well design it. And give yourselves a little bit of congratulations for picking a fabulous place to do it. This is a terrific school. These are neat people. They really do love you, and they really are committed to you becoming your full self. So congratulations on coming to Boston College. Thank you. Now, it's unfair to say that much stuff without giving people a chance to come back at you, so we have time for a little bit of Q&A. So if you have any questions for me at all about what I just said, about the book, about working with Steve Jobs 20 years ago, anything at all that you might have for Dave Evans, raise your hand and a microphone will find you, and you can ask me a question. Okay, who's got a question? Get your hand up. There's one over there. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, did you ever solve the energy crisis?
No, I did not. It's interesting. If I had walked out of graduation in my cap and gown and into a cryogenic freezer for 35 years and then walked right out again, in maybe 2007, something like that, my timing would have been perfect. If I were graduating today, it's a terrific market to be in. Which brings up an interesting issue, because literally it was not in the brochure, oh, by the way, as they paid for me to get my master's. I get my master's for free. Frederick Buechner's famous book, The ABCs of Wishful Thinking, is one of the most popular definitions of calling. Where is your calling found? Your calling is found where your deep gladness and the world's deep need meet, Buechner would say. A lot of people think that's a good definition. I think it's missing a piece. Where your deep gladness, the world's deep need, and what the world is willing to do might meet. How many of you would like either have a passion or hope to find one? Okay, watch what you wish for. Sometimes you get a passion and then it beats you to death. I had one. The world would not let me do it. By the way, we were right. All the cool stuff we're doing today, we knew about 50 years ago. I was working on hybrid engines in 1974. All the cool advanced energy technologies we're doing today, the only difference between now and the mid-70s is the batteries last a little longer. So one thing you want to find is you want to find something that you can do. Wow, I guess that was important. So no, I didn't solve the energy crisis, but hopefully somebody will, because it's still a problem. Another question, over here, great.
If you could do it all, whoa, that's loud.
Whoa, I know, it's, me too, dude.
Yeah. All right, if you could do it all over again, would you?
Yes. Now, don't say I never give a short answer, okay? If I could do it all over again, would I? Yes, I mean, I would not shank the first 3 years of my college education as badly as I did. I mean, I really did blow it. I profoundly blew it. If I had that to do over, I would do it differently. But there are a group of young men I've been taking backpacking for about 20 years, and they're all 20 years my junior. I'm the designated old guy, and we're sitting up about 10,000 feet swimming in an alpine lake, and Rich turns to me one day and goes, "Hey, Dave, you're the old guy, so, dude, do you have any regrets?" And my answer was, well, there's sure a lot of things I would do differently, but I have no regrets. And all the young guys go, "What? How's that work? If you know you do it differently, don't you regret it?" No, I don't. In fact, I really hope there's almost nothing that I have ever done that I wouldn't do differently if I did it again. Because I'm supposed to be learning. I'm supposed to be getting better. I don't think I've finished anything. But that doesn't mean I regret it. To regret it means usually what we're doing is you're saying your future self deserved to have been true 5 years ago. If only I knew at 18 and 19 what I knew at 45. Well, I didn't. And I couldn't have. Don't blame yourself. By the way, your neocortex isn't even done being baked until 27, a little later in boys. Oh, what a surprise. So, you haven't even shown up yet. What if what God or the universe or your own best wisdom within you, however you might hold that, wants to tell you is something you can't hear yet? And your real job while you're here is to grow into the person to have the capacity to hear what your future self needs to know. The average adult doesn't really get their hands on who they are as a grown-up until somewhere between 28 and 35 years old. We've known that for over a century in psychology, but it's been a secret. We keep asking 18-year-olds, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And the answer is, "I don't know." Well, what are you going to major in? Well, that's a whole nother story. So the point being, no, I wouldn't regret it because I'm planning on growing. My 65-year-old can totally kick my 18-year-old's butt, and I expect my 72-year-old to kick my 65-year-old's butt. I'm in this for the long game. One or two more questions. Over here.
Which one of your 6 careers was the most fulfilling to you?
Oh, which is the most fulfilling? Dad. Thank you. No, really, full stop. No, it's, my father killed himself when I was 9. At the time, we just knew that he died suddenly and young. My mother decided we did not deserve to think that our dad did not think we were worth living for until we were old enough to bear that news. So it wasn't until well into my 20s we got the rest of the story. But he died at his own hand, which I concluded was a really bad decision. And I didn't have a dad, and I really thought that was a big deal. So I really wanted to be one. And I am, and it's the coolest job in town. Coolest job in town. Thank you. And teaching is right behind it because I just love hanging out with people like you. Apparently, I got stuck on 18 to 32-year-olds and just never got over it. Don't you think you're fascinating? I think you're really interesting. Okay, what else we got? Over here somewhere? Yeah, and there was somebody in the far back. There's a hand way back over. Yeah, the young woman. So get her next. Okay, go ahead.
What do you find most rewarding about education, and why'd you pick Stanford?
What do I find rewarding about education, and why did I pick Stanford? Let me start with the latter one. I picked Stanford strictly opportunistically. I spent 20 years as a management consultant specializing in corporate strategy and stuff like that. And if you're in the strategy world, you'll find there's sort of 3 points of view. There's the bottom-up opportunist, there's the top-down strategist, and there's sort of the middle-out strategic opportunist. And I have largely become wedded to strategic opportunism. And by that I mean strategic-wise, I have something in mind. I have a direction I'm trying to go. There are a couple of things I really care about. I really care about the fact that we need institutions to be formative and nurturing of forming your better selves. And BC has always been committed to that. Again, good job on picking a place that has a deep legacy in caring deeply about you. But most of higher education forgot that. And so there's an opportunity there. And so if I want to be on strategy, but I want to be an opportunist because it's so hard to make something happen. There was no opportunity in advanced energy in 1976. So when my buddy Bill Burnett got this new job running the design program at Stanford, and the design program at Stanford's kind of known as the lunatic fringe crowd, I thought, well, they just might be open-minded enough to try this life design stuff, which was crazy, and sure enough, they were. So I went to Stanford simply because it was opportunistic. In terms of what's rewarding about that, what's rewarding about education is, dude, I got the coolest job in town. I mean, I have a front row seat in the most amazing show on earth, the unveiling of the human life. I mean, Gloria Vivens Dei Homo, the glory of God is a person fully alive. I get to see people become alive at close range every single day. Education invites me into that. My students and my team and my collaborators give me an incredible privilege, which is to have honest conversation about things that matter and ask questions that we're actually willing to act on together. I mean, it's almost as cool as being a dad. It's almost as cool as being a dad. So I'm very grateful to have the chance to do what I do. I really am. Anybody else?
Right here to your left. Right
here.
here. In the stands. Right
Oh,
here.
yep.
Hands up.
Go ahead.
How do
Here
you
we
know?
are. Well, oh yeah, okay, back row. Dude,
How do you know when you're actually happy?
how do I know when I'm actually happy?
Yes.
Is that it, happy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I sure know when I'm not. Happy is not all it's cracked up to be. Happy is not really very high on my list. That's why the book says how to build the well-lived and joyful life. I think joy is a little different than happy. Happy, or the technical term eudaimonia, positive emotion. Positive emotion is great, don't get me wrong. But Father Leahy earlier used the term coherent. What I'm really after is the coherent life. I really want my life to make sense. Who am I? What am I doing? What do I believe? Are they on the same page? I'm after coherence. I'm a junkie for coherence. I'm a junkie for mattering. I want to matter, damn it. I want to do stuff that matters to somebody. It doesn't have to be a ton of people. Jesus did not bad with 12 and one went bad. It doesn't have to be a big group. But let's get some traction in this life. And along the way, if we can do things that are joyful and joy-inducing as well along the way. And if I pay attention, I know it's like I sound like I memorized the BC thing, but I think they called me because we already agree on some stuff. If I'm paying attention and I'm living in a coherent way and I'm having a chance to matter, that's very joyful. That's very joy-inducing. And so that's when I know what I'm doing. And the last part about happy is you have to remember to be. I'll give you an example. There's a very important spiritual practice at our house. It's 8 o'clock at night, it's Wednesday, I'm late, it's dinner night at my house, I'm supposed to be home with my wife having dinner at 7:30, by the way, an hour's drive from where I am at 8 o'clock. So I pick up my cell phone, I call my wife, I go, Claudia, honey, I'm so sorry. As you probably figured out, I'm not gonna make it home by a half hour ago for dinner, again. I'm so sorry. She goes, oh, I understand. I said, well, what happened? I said, well, gosh, 5 more kids showed up for office hours, and then Vice Provost Elam called up, and he really wanted to get together and talk about this freshman thing, and I really wanted to take that meeting because he hasn't got any time, and it just got away from me, and suddenly it's 3 hours later, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, honey. I did it again. And my wife, Claudia, says, oh, you must be so happy. You must be so happy. And I went, why am I so happy? She goes, because that's exactly what you want. You care about students like crazy, and if they're showing up for office hours, that means they're engaging. You're really engaging students' lives. And if Provost Elam is calling you, that means you're actually affecting the institution at the administrative level, and you really hope you can make change at the structural level. So these are exactly the things you want. You must be so happy. And I went, right, I called to say, hi, honey, I'm 3 hours late again, and I'm so happy. So there's a line at our house to remind somebody to go, oh, by the way, and don't forget, you are so happy. It almost got away from me. So what's the moral of that story? Marry well. Really simple. Really simple. Marry well. And you might be lucky enough to have a spouse who will teach you how to catch happiness before it gets away from you. Any more? Way over the right. Yeah. Shoot. What you got?
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to start by introducing myself. So I'm Chantal Gurley. Obviously, I'm a freshman here. But anyways, I thought one thing that's really fascinating in life is the idea that young people in the world are supposed to be tied down to one passion. And I think you kind of addressed that in your book. So my question is, and I know I have a lot of passions, and I'm only 18, so I'm sure everyone else in the room does, but how do you kind of ease students' anxiety about shifting your passions and being able to pursue all of them in one life?
Okay, so how do I ease people into being assured that you can pursue all your passions? Well, I would never ease anybody into that assurance. There's not a chance in the world I think you can probably pursue all your passions. That's why, FOMO is not a problem. So if I see, what I want to do is a reframe. So if the question is, how do I make sure I get to do all my passions? Here's the thing. Questions have belief systems. Before you let a question decide it deserves to organize or particularly to judge your life, be sure you believe what it believes. Let's say, I'm not sure this is exactly what you meant, but if the question was, how do I make sure I get to do all my passions? That question believes that if I don't do all my passions, somehow my life has been diminished. Now, do you believe that? Hopefully not. Hopefully we have passions we couldn't possibly get to. I'd like to have an oversupply of passion. That would be okay with me. So thing one is, there is no rule that says you get to do everything you hope to do. What if I change the question to, how can I learn to find my way into living passionately? If I've lived passionately, if I've lived deeply, kind of regardless of how many passions I got, does it really much matter if I did 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? Is passion variety somehow superior to passion consistency? Not necessarily. So what I really want to do is I want to learn how to, curate, stoke, and live into and nurture those passions. And for those of you who don't have one yet, 80% of people answer the question, what's your passion, with either, I don't know yet, I'm still looking, or I have a bunch, which one did you want? So the singular question, what's your passion, as the organizing principle, doesn't work for 8 out of 10 people. How many of you fit the category, I don't know yet, or I've got more than one? Okay, so passion's not that good organizing question. You're going to have to pick. Relax. It's okay. You got plenty of time. And by the way, all of you are going to have about 50 or 60 jobs. You're going to work until you're 100. You're going to put in 150,000 hours on the job and probably have 4 careers. So relax. You get more than one shot at this thing. I know that's a little scary, but that's actually all true. Many of you will live to 100. Many of you. Play the long game. Okay. Last one.
Hi. What is your next career, and where's Bill?
Bill's back home taking care of the kids. No, that's actually a true story. We're on the quarter system, so we start in September. So Bill is back in Palo Alto. He actually has a real day job in addition to the Life Design Lab called running the #1 design program in the country, the Stanford design program. And he's got a whole bunch of new students, he's got to admit. So Bill's home actually doing his day job. What was the other question? It was, what's that? What's my last career? What's my next career? That's a really good question. That's a really, really good question. I'm in a discernment process right now about how to lean into that. This book thing exploding and coming and doing stuff like this completely took us by surprise. I did not see that coming. And the thing I'm really weighing heavily, I'm weighing two things very heavily, which are quite different. Is it really time to go seriously into the grandfather gig? I have 7 grandkids and more coming. They've been busy. Apparently. And for a guy who thinks being a dad is so important, maybe being a grad dad is important too. Maybe that little constituency of 7 grandkids who I never see because I'm doing this, I'm seeing you, not them. Maybe it's time for them to get first in line. So I'm weighing that question. And then the other one is whether or not it's time for an entirely new thing. I talked earlier about being surprised. I've just begun to notice that the issue of justice and its lack of practice, particularly in this culture, and its unfairness of practice by socioeconomic and color issues, is really rankling me. It's really bothering me. And maybe it's time to reorient and work on a new question. It might be time either to mostly take care of my grandkids, or it might be time to stop doing this life design thing almost entirely and go work on justice. I'm 65, I got less runway in front of me than behind me. I got to make choices carefully. So it's a good question, and if I figure it out, if you've got any inputs, come up and talk to me later, because it's a question I'm working on. Hey, thanks for your time. God bless you guys. Welcome to Boston College.
One more round for Dave Evans, please. I would now like to invite up Leah DaCosta once again.
So Dave, on behalf of the Boston College Alumni Association and the class of 2022, we thank you for being with us tonight and inspiring all of us with the essential life lessons and themes shared throughout your book. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. It's very good. Okay.
And now I would invite you to stand and sing the Boston College alma mater, which is on page 3 of your program.
Oh
A special thanks to the Boston College Marching Band and the Liturgy Arts Group of Boston College. Have a wonderful night, everyone.